The galaxy, a swirling tapestry of stars and nebulae, was home to a myriad of species, each shaped by the unique cradle world from which they sprung. For most, existence was a relatively gentle affair. Their homeworlds, blessed with stable climates and abundant resources, fostered civilizations that valued harmony, intellectual pursuits, and the arts. Conflict was often relegated to the digital realm, and physical hardship was a distant memory, relegated to historical vids and dusty archives. They lived in a galactic age of comfort and safety, blissfully unaware of the realities faced by those who hailed from less forgiving corners of the cosmos. Then there were the humans. From the moment they burst onto the galactic scene, humanity was labeled, categorized, and often feared. Deathworlders, this designation, whispered in hushed tones in diplomatic circles and blazoned across sensationalized news feeds, carried with it a weight of intrigue and trepidation. Their origin planet, a swirling, blue marble deceptively named Earth, was perceived as a crucible of death, a place where evolution had favored aggression, resilience, and an almost unnerving capacity for survival. The common galactic perception painted a picture of relentless predators, forged in the fires of constant struggle. They were seen as beings who wrestled with colossal beasts, navigated treacherous landscapes, and endured climates that would vaporize or freeze lesser species in moments. Their technology, while impressive, was often viewed as a mere extension of their inherent savagery, tools designed not just for progress, but for dominance. This perception, while exaggerated, wasn't entirely unfounded that Earth's history was indeed a brutal chronicle of survival. Its inhabitants had faced ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and a relentless onslaught of predators, both animal and, eventually, their own kind. This constant pressure had forged a species that was adaptable, resourceful, and undeniably tough. But the label Deathworlder was more than just a descriptor. It was a barrier. It created a sense of otherness, a distance that prevented many species from truly understanding humanity's complexities. They saw only the surface, the strength, the aggression, the apparent disregard for personal safety, without recognizing the deeper layers of compassion, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit that had allowed them to not only survive, but thrive. This preconceived notion would be challenged, shattered, and ultimately redefined by every alien who crossed paths with a Deathworld Cadet, individuals who embodied the very essence of Earth's harsh realities, and who would inadvertently reveal the brutal truth of what it truly meant to be human. The stage was set for a collision of cultures, a clash of perceptions, and the inevitable unraveling of galactic assumptions. The sleek, chrome corridors of the Stardust Promenade shimmered under the soft, artificial sunlight. This neutral space station, a bustling hub of intergalactic commerce and diplomacy, served as a meeting point for species from every corner of the known galaxy. Here, representatives from vastly different cultures could negotiate treaties, exchange technologies, and forge alliances, all under the watchful eye of the Galactic Concord, an organization dedicated to maintaining peace and stability. That IT was on this very station that a delegation from the Xylar Ascendancy, a technologically advanced but physically delicate race, had arrived. The Xylar, with their large iridescent eyes, slender limbs, and fragile exoskeletons, were masters of energy manipulation and quantum computing. Their homeworld, Xylos Prime, was a carefully cultivated paradise, shielded from cosmic radiation and meticulously maintained to ensure optimal living conditions. They were, in many ways, the epitome of a species that had conquered the challenges of survival through intellect and innovation, rather than brute force. Their purpose on the Stardust Promenade was to secure a trade agreement with the Terran Confederacy, the political entity representing humanity. They sought access to rare Earth minerals and biological compounds, resources essential for their continued technological advancement. In return, they offered advanced energy technology that could revolutionize Earth's infrastructure and alleviate its dependence on fossil fuels. The Xylar delegation, led by the esteemed Ambassador Theron Kai, approached the negotiations with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. They were well aware of humanity's Deathworlder reputation, and while they recognized the potential benefits of trade agreement, they were also wary of the perceived risks associated with dealing with such a formidable species. Theron Kai, in particular, had spent countless hours studying human history, culture, and psychology. He had watched vids of human athletes performing feats of strength that defied Xylar comprehension, read reports of human soldiers surviving injuries that would be fatal to any other species, and listened to accounts of human explorers venturing into the most hostile environments imaginable. He understood that humanity's strength was not just physical, but also mental, a combination of unwavering determination, relentless adaptability, and a seemingly innate ability to overcome adversity. Despite his meticulous preparation, Theron Kai couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something. He knew that the Deathworlder label was an oversimplification, a convenient way to categorize a species that defied easy understanding. That he suspected that there was more to humanity than met the eye, a hidden depth that could only be revealed through direct interaction. A.S. the Xylar delegation prepared to meet their Terran counterparts. They were about to discover that their preconceived notions about humanity were about to be challenged in ways they could never have imagined. The brutal truth of what it meant to be a Deathworlder was about to be revealed, not through grand displays of power or technological prowess, but through the seemingly ordinary actions of a single human. A Deathworld cadet assigned to security detail. Amidst the polished chrome and gentle hum of the asterisk. Stardust Promenade asterisk. Anya Petrova blended in with the station's vibrant tapestry of life. That a wisp of a girl, barely past her 16th birthday by Earth reckoning, she was easily overlooked. Her uniform, a standard-issue Terran Confederacy security detail ensemble, hung slightly loose on her slender frame, and her dark hair was pulled back into a practical, unfussy braid. She carried herself with a quiet confidence that belied her age, her alert, gray eyes constantly scanning her surroundings, absorbing every detail. Anya was a Deathworld cadet, a product of Earth's rigorous training programs designed to mold young individuals into capable protectors of their people. She might have looked like any other teenager, perhaps a student on a field trip, but beneath her unassuming exterior lay a potent combination of physical prowess, tactical acumen, and an unwavering commitment to duty. Her assignment on the Stardust Promenade was relatively straightforward: provide security for the Terran delegation during the trade negotiations with the Xylar Ascendancy. To IT was considered a low-risk posting, a chance for a young cadet to gain experience in a relatively controlled environment. Most assumed her presence was largely symbolic, a gesture of goodwill towards the Galactic Concord. The Xylar, upon first observing Anya, seemed to confirm this assumption. Ambassador Theron Kai, his large, iridescent eyes flitting over her small stature, couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. This was the Deathworlder assigned to protect them? She looked barely capable of lifting a standard-issue blaster, let alone fending off a serious threat. He exchanged a subtle glance with his second-in-command, a silent acknowledgement of their shared assessment. They saw in Anya a reflection of their own preconceived notions, a fragile, underdeveloped human, easily intimidated and outmatched. They failed to recognize the subtle indicators of her true capabilities, the coiled tension in her muscles, the unwavering focus in her eyes, the barely perceptible adjustments she made to her stance as she anticipated potential threats. Anya, for her part, observed the Xylar delegation with a detached curiosity. She understood their apprehension, their ingrained fear of the unknown. She had seen it countless times before, the way other species reacted to humans, their faces a mixture of fascination and unease. She knew that she represented something alien and unsettling to them, a reminder of the harsh realities of a world they could scarcely comprehend. She also knew that their underestimation could be an advantage. While they saw a child, she saw potential vulnerabilities, weaknesses that could be exploited if the situation demanded it. She was a silent observer, a hidden weapon, waiting for the moment when her true capabilities would be revealed. The Xylar were about to learn that appearances could be deceiving, and that even the smallest Deathworlder could possess a strength that defied all expectations. The game, as they say, was afoot. The incident occurred during a routine tour of the Stardust Promenade's Central Market, a sprawling bazaar teeming with exotic goods and even more exotic species. The Xylar delegation, eager to experience the station's vibrant culture, had requested a brief detour before commencing formal negotiations. Anya, as always, remained a step behind, her senses heightened, her focus unwavering. Anya's gaze flicked from vendor to vendor, taking in the strange sights and smells of the market. She cataloged each alien species, assessed potential threats, and noted the various escape routes. IT was a constant mental exercise, a habit ingrained from years of rigorous training. The delegation passed a stall overflowing with shimmering, crystalline sculptures. A support strut on a nearby display platform gave way with a sickening groan. The platform, laden with heavy, metallic artwork, began to tilt precariously, threatening to collapse directly onto Ambassador Theron Kai, who was admiring a particularly intricate piece. The Xylar, with their delicate frames and slow reaction times, were completely unprepared for the sudden danger. Theron Kai, his iridescent eyes widening in panic, could only watch in horror as the platform began its descent. His second-in-command, paralyzed by fear, could only emit a high-pitched, warbling cry. Anya, however, reacted instantly. Her mind, honed by countless simulations and real-world exercises, processed the situation in a fraction of a second. Without conscious thought, she surged forward, her movements a blur of controlled power. She reached Theron Kai just as the platform began to topple. With a guttural grunt, she braced herself against the falling structure, her muscles straining against the immense weight. The metallic artwork crashed against her back, the force of the impact sending tremors through her entire body. But Anya held firm. Her legs, planted firmly on the ground, refused to buckle. Her arms, trembling with exertion, maintained their unwavering grip. She managed to arrest the platform's momentum, preventing it from crushing the Xylar ambassador. For a heart-stopping moment, the market fell silent. All eyes were on Anya, the seemingly frail human teenager who was single-handedly supporting a structure that should have easily crushed her. The Xylar delegation stared in disbelief, their preconceived notions about humanity shattering before their very eyes. Slowly, carefully, Anya lowered the platform to the ground, her muscles screaming in protest. Once the danger had passed, she straightened up, her breathing heavy, her face flushed with exertion. She offered Theron Kai a curt nod, her expression betraying no sign of the immense strain she had just endured. "Are you all right, Ambassador?" she asked, her voice surprisingly steady. To Theron Kai, still visibly shaken, could only stammer a response. "Why, yes. I am unharmed. Thank you, Cadet Petrova." The incident was over in a matter of seconds, but its impact would reverberate throughout the negotiations and beyond. The Xylar had witnessed a display of strength and resilience that defied their understanding of human physiology. They had seen, firsthand, the brutal truth of what it meant to be a Deathworlder. The immediate aftermath of the incident was a flurry of activity. Station security personnel swarmed the area, cordoning off the damaged stall and initiating an investigation. Medics, alerted to the potential for injury, rushed to the scene, only to find Anya brushing off their concerns with a stoic shrug. "I'm fine," she insisted, waving away their diagnostic scanners. "Just a little bruised." Theron Kai, however, remained deeply affected by what he had witnessed. He couldn't reconcile the image of the seemingly frail teenager with the incredible display of strength she had just exhibited. His mind raced, searching for a logical explanation. "Cadet Petrova," he began, his voice still tinged with awe and a hint of suspicion. "That was remarkable. How did you manage to support such a weight?" Anya hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. She couldn't reveal the full extent of Earth's genetic enhancement programs, nor could she disclose the details of her rigorous training regimen. Such information was classified, deemed too sensitive for alien consumption. "We undergo extensive physical conditioning," she replied evasively. It's part of our standard security protocol. Theron Kai pressed further. But even with training, such strength seems improbable. Is it possible that you are utilizing some form of exoskeletal enhancement? Or perhaps some form of bioaugmentation? Anya maintained her composure, her expression betraying nothing. We utilize the resources available to us to maximize our capabilities, she said cryptically. Beyond that, I am not at liberty to discuss specifics. The Xyler delegation exchanged uneasy glances. They had initially dismissed Anya as an insignificant presence, a mere formality. Now, they were forced to confront the possibility that she represented something far more complex, something potentially dangerous. As they resumed their tour of the market, a palpable tension hung in the air. The Xyler, once eager to immerse themselves in the station's culture, now seemed preoccupied, their gazes constantly darting towards Anya, their minds struggling to process the implications of her abilities. They began to question everything they thought they knew about humans. Was their Deathworlder reputation simply a product of environmental pressures? Or was there something more, something inherent in their genetic makeup that made them so formidable? The incident had sown a seed of doubt, a nagging suspicion that humanity was far more than it appeared to be. The Xyler had come to the Stardust Promenade seeking a trade agreement, but they were about to discover that the true price of that agreement might be a complete reevaluation of their understanding of life in the galaxy. The initial underestimation was over. The aliens were finally starting to realize the reality of dealing with a Deathworlder. That evening, a formal cultural exchange dinner was held in the Stardust Promenade's opulent grand ballroom. The event was intended to foster goodwill and understanding between the Terran and Xyler delegations, a chance to bridge the cultural gap and lay the foundation for a successful trade agreement. The ballroom was a dazzling spectacle of intergalactic aesthetics. Holographic projections of Earth's lush forests and Xylo's prime's shimmering crystal cities adorned the walls. The air hummed with the gentle melodies of both human and Xyler music. The tables were laden with a diverse array of culinary delights, each carefully selected to cater to the dietary needs and cultural sensitivities of both species. However, beneath the veneer of diplomatic harmony, a current of unease persisted. The Xyler delegation, still reeling from Anya's display of strength, found it difficult to relax and engage in the intended spirit of cultural exchange. They observed their Terran counterparts with a newfound scrutiny, searching for clues to unravel the mystery of their seemingly superhuman capabilities. As the dinner progressed, a particularly intriguing dish was presented. Xyler ambrosia, a delicacy revered on Xylo's prime for its delicate flavor and rejuvenating properties. The ambrosia, a shimmering, iridescent gel, was said to enhance mental clarity and promote longevity. It was offered to the Terran delegation as a gesture of goodwill and a symbol of Xyler hospitality. Ambassador Davies, the head of the Terran delegation, accepted the offering with a polite smile. He took a small spoonful of the ambrosia and swallowed it without hesitation. He expressed his appreciation for the Xyler's generosity, praising the dish's unique flavor and texture. Then, it was Anya's turn, and a server approached her with a small bowl of Xyler ambrosia, offering it with a respectful bow. Anya, however, politely declined. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm and measured, "but I must respectfully refuse." Her refusal sparked a ripple of surprise throughout the ballroom. The Xyler delegation exchanged puzzled glances. It was considered a grave insult to reject a gift of food, especially a delicacy as revered as Xyler ambrosia. Ambassador Theron Kai, his iridescent eyes narrowed with curiosity, addressed Anya directly. "Cadet Petrova, is there something amiss? Do you find our offering unacceptable?" Anya hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. She knew that her explanation could be misconstrued, potentially jeopardizing the delicate diplomatic balance. "With all due respect, Ambassador," she began, "the Xyler ambrosia contains compounds that are incompatible with human physiology." Karonki Fromnet. Incompatible? But the ambrosia is perfectly safe. That it is consumed regularly by our entire population without any adverse effects. Anya nodded. "I understand. However, on Earth, we have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Our environment is diverse. We have adapted to a wide range of toxins and pathogens. As a result, our bodies are highly sensitive to substances that are harmless to other species. She paused, then added with a subtle emphasis, the Xylar ambrosia, while safe for your people, would likely cause a severe allergic reaction, possibly even death, in a human. The Xylar delegation was stunned into silence. They had attributed Anya's strength to advanced technology or genetic modification. Now, they were confronted with a far more unsettling possibility, that her capabilities were simply a byproduct of Earth's incredibly hostile environment. The awkward silence that followed Anya's revelation hung heavy in the grand ballroom. Ambassador Davies, sensing the growing tension, attempted to diffuse the situation with a diplomatic chuckle. Cadet Petrova's constitution is, shall we say, uniquely attuned to the challenges of Earth's environment, he said, offering a reassuring smile to Theron Kai. It's a testament to our species' adaptability, I suppose. Theron Kai, however, remained unconvinced. He saw in Anya's refusal not just a display of biological peculiarity, but a fundamental difference in worldview, a stark contrast between the carefully cultivated paradise of Xylos Prime and the brutal reality of Earth. Later that evening, after the dinner had concluded and the delegations had retired to their respective quarters, Theron Kai sought out Anya for a private conversation. He found her in a quiet observation lounge, gazing out at the swirling nebula that served as the Stardust Promenade's backdrop. Cadet Petrova, he said, his voice low and respectful. I hope you will forgive my intrusion, but I have a question that has been troubling me since your incident in the market and your subsequent refusal of the ambrosia. Anya turned to face him, her expression calm and attentive. Of course, Ambassador, I am at your service. You spoke of Earth's diverse environment, Theron Kai continued, and of your species' adaptation to toxins and pathogens that I confess, I find it difficult to comprehend that on Xylos Prime, we have eradicated disease, controlled our climate, and engineered our ecosystem to ensure optimal health and well-being for all. Why would a species choose to endure such hardship, such constant exposure to danger? Anya paused for a moment, considering her response. She knew that explaining the intricacies of Earth's evolutionary history to a Xylar was a daunting task, but she also recognized the importance of fostering understanding between their species. We didn't choose it, Ambassador, she said finally. We were forged by it. Earth is not a paradise. It is a crucible. It is a place where life is constantly challenged, where survival is a constant struggle. She gestured towards the swirling nebula outside the window. Imagine a world where every plant, every animal, every microbe is trying to kill you. Imagine a world where the air you breathe can be toxic, where the water you drink can be deadly, where the very ground beneath your feet can erupt in fire and ash. Theron Kai's iridescent eyes widened in disbelief. Such a world sounds horrific. How could any species possibly survive in such conditions? Anya smiled faintly. By adapting, by evolving, by becoming stronger, faster, and more resilient than anything else that threatens us on Earth, we don't just survive, we overcome. She paused, then added with a quiet intensity. And sometimes, in order to overcome, we must become something else. Theron Kai absorbed Anya's words, his mind struggling to grasp the sheer scale of the challenges she described. He had read about Earth's diverse ecosystems, but he had always viewed them through the lens of a detached observer, an academic studying a fascinating but ultimately distant phenomenon. He had never truly considered the lived reality of surviving in such an environment. But surely, he said, his voice tinged with disbelief, your technology provides some measure of protection. You have advanced medical treatments, protective gear, climate control systems. Anya nodded. Of course that we utilize every tool at our disposal to mitigate the risks. But technology is not a panacea. That IT can only do so much. Ultimately, it is our own resilience, our own adaptability that allows us to thrive. She leaned back against the observation lounge's panoramic window, her gaze drifting back to the swirling nebula. Take, for example, the simple act of taking a walk in the woods. Theron Kai frowned. A walk in the woods? I failed to see the relevance. Anya smiled faintly. On Xylo's Prime, I imagine a walk in the woods is a pleasant, relaxing experience that a chance to connect with nature, to appreciate the beauty of your carefully curated ecosystem. Indeed, Theron Kai confirmed, is a deeply cherished pastime. On Earth, Anya continued, a walk in the woods is a potential death sentence. You have to be constantly vigilant, constantly aware of your surroundings. You have to watch out for venomous snakes, poisonous plants, predatory animals, and a host of other potential hazards. She ticked off the dangers on her fingers. There are spiders whose venom could dissolve your flesh, plants whose touch can cause agonizing blisters, fungi whose spores can invade your lungs and turn you into a living incubator. And that's just the flora and fauna. You also have to contend with falling trees, flash floods, and the occasional rogue lightning strike. She delivered this litany of horrors with an unsettling nonchalance, as if she were describing a mundane chore rather than a life-threatening ordeal. Theron Kai stared at her in stunned silence. You speak of these things so casually. Are you not afraid? Anya shrugged. Fear is a luxury we cannot always afford. That we acknowledge the risks, we prepare for them, and we move forward. Besides, she added with a hint of dark humor, after a while, you get used to it. You learn to identify the signs of danger, to anticipate the threats, to react instinctively. She paused, then added with a chillingly matter-of-fact tone, you learn to kill or be killed. Driven by an insatiable scientific curiosity and a growing sense of unease, Xyler scientist Dr. Lyrosol initiated a covert investigation into Anya's physiology. During a seemingly innocuous encounter in the Stardust Promenade's hydroponics garden, where both delegations were observing the station's food production systems, Lyrosol surreptitiously deployed a miniature bioscanner disguised as a data collection device. The scanner, utilizing advanced quantum entanglement technology, was capable of gathering detailed physiological data from a distance, without requiring physical contact or even the subject awareness. Lyrosol, feigning interest in a genetically modified strain of Terran algae, positioned herself within range of Anya and activated the scanner. The data that flooded Lyrosol's neural interface was nothing short of astonishing. The initial scans confirmed the presence of genetic markers associated with enhanced muscle density and bone structure, explaining Anya's extraordinary strength. But the deeper Lyrosol delved, the more profound and unsettling the discoveries became. That Anya's skeletal system was reinforced with a complex lattice of carbon nanotubes, providing exceptional resistance to fractures and impacts. Her immune system was a veritable fortress, capable of neutralizing a vast array of toxins, pathogens, and even radiation. Her pain receptors were significantly dampened, allowing her to endure levels of physical trauma that would incapacitate any other species. Furthermore, Lyrosol detected elevated levels of stress hormones and neurotransmitters associated with heightened alertness and rapid reaction times. Anya's nervous system was constantly primed for action, her senses perpetually tuned to detect the slightest hint of danger. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery was the presence of microscopic, symbiotic organisms residing within Anya's cellular structure. These organisms, unlike anything Lyrosol had ever encountered, appeared to enhance Anya's metabolic efficiency, allowing her to process nutrients and oxygen at an accelerated rate. They also seemed to play a role in regulating her body temperature, enabling her to withstand extreme heat and cold. Lyrosol realized that Anya was not simply a product of advanced technology or genetic modification. She was the result of a complex interplay between genetics, environment, and symbiosis, a testament to Earth's unique and brutal evolutionary pressures. The data painted a picture of a being perfectly adapted for survival in a world teeming with danger, a walking, talking weapon honed by millennia of natural selection. Lyrosol was both awestruck and terrified by what she had uncovered. The initial assumption of simple Deathworlder toughness had morphed into a disturbing understanding of just how profoundly different human physiology had become. The truth was far more brutal than any of them had imagined. The incident occurred during a joint training exercise. designed to showcase the security protocols of both the Terran Confederacy and the Xylar Ascendancy. The exercise, held in a simulated environment within the Stardust Promenade's expansive training facility, was intended to be a demonstration of cooperation and mutual respect. The scenario involved a simulated terrorist attack on a diplomatic convoy, requiring the security teams to work together to neutralize the threat and protect the delegates. The Xylar security forces, relying on advanced energy weapons and sophisticated surveillance technology, approached the simulation with a methodical, calculated strategy. The Terran security team, led by Anya, adopted a more aggressive, proactive approach. They moved swiftly and decisively, utilizing a combination of tactical maneuvers, hand-to-hand combat, and projectile weaponry. Everything proceeded as planned until a seemingly minor malfunction transformed the simulation into a terrifying reality. Point one of the training drones, programmed to simulate an enemy combatant, experienced a critical system failure, causing its targeting matrix to go haywire. Instead of firing blanks, the drone began to discharge live rounds, its energy weapons spitting out bolts of searing plasma. The Xylar security forces, caught completely off guard, were slow to react. Their energy shields were designed to deflect projectile weapons, not plasma blasts, and their training had not prepared them for such a sudden and violent escalation. Anya, however, reacted instantly. She recognized the danger in a fraction of a second, her instincts honed by years of rigorous training and real-world experience. Without hesitation, she launched herself towards the rogue drone, moving with a speed and ferocity that defied belief. She closed the distance in a blur, dodging plasma bolts with uncanny agility. She disarmed the drone with a swift, precise strike, severing its weapon arm with a combat knife she had concealed beneath her uniform. Then, in a series of brutal, efficient movements, she disabled the drone's propulsion system, rendering it completely immobile. But Anya didn't stop there. With a cold, calculating intensity, she systematically dismantled the drone, ripping out its power core and scattering its components across the training facility floor. Her actions were not simply about neutralizing the threat. They were about ensuring that it could never pose a danger again. The Xylar delegation watched in horror as Anya brutally dismantled the drone, her movements precise, efficient, and utterly devoid of mercy. They had witnessed her strength, her resilience, and her adaptability. Now, they were confronted with her capacity for violence, her willingness to unleash her full potential when faced with a threat. The training exercise had become a grim demonstration of the brutal truth of what it meant to be a Deathworlder. The aliens were horrified, but they were also awestruck by the raw power and unwavering determination of the seemingly ordinary human cadet. The training facility fell silent after Anya's brutal display. The Xylar security forces, still visibly shaken, stood in stunned silence, their advanced energy weapons hanging limply at their sides. The Terran security team, accustomed to Anya's decisive actions, simply resumed their positions, their expressions betraying no hint of surprise or concern. Ambassador Theron Kai, his iridescent eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fascination, approached Anya cautiously. "Cadet Petrova," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "That was excessive. Surely, there were less violent means of neutralizing the drone." Anya turned to face him, her expression calm and unwavering. "Perhaps," she conceded, "but on Earth, we operate under a different set of parameters that we prioritize survival above all else." But the drone was disabled. Theron Kai protested. "It posed no further threat." "That is not a chance we are willing to take," Anya replied, her voice firm and unwavering. "On Earth, we have learned that hesitation can be fatal. We have learned that a moment's indecision can mean the difference between life and death." She paused, then added with a chillingly pragmatic tone, "We do not afford our enemies the luxury of a second chance." Lyra Sol, who had been observing the exchange from a distance, stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "Cadet Petrova," she said, "your actions, while unsettling, are understandable, given your species' evolutionary history. But surely, compassion has some role to play in your decision-making process. Anya hesitated for a moment, her expression softening slightly. Compassion is a luxury we often cannot afford, she said finally. On Earth, we are constantly faced with difficult choices that require us to prioritize the needs of the many over the needs of the few. She gestured towards the simulated environment, a carefully crafted illusion of a battlefield. This is a simulation, she said. It is a game. But on Earth, the stakes are always real, and the consequences of failure are always permanent. She paused, then added with a quiet intensity. We are not inherently violent, that we are not bloodthirsty. We are simply survivors. We have adapted to a world that demands strength, resilience, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. And sometimes, that means making difficult choices that may seem brutal or inhumane to those who have never faced such challenges. She met Theron Kai's gaze, her eyes conveying a depth of understanding that belied her young age. On Earth, she said, vigilance is not a virtue, that it is a necessity. Adaptability is not a skill, that it is a survival mechanism. And ruthlessness is not a character flaw, that it is a tool, to be used only when absolutely necessary, but to be used without hesitation when the lives of others are at stake. The Xylar delegation retreated to their quarters, a somber mood permeating the air. The events of the past few days had shaken them to their core, forcing them to confront uncomfortable truths about humanity and their own preconceived notions. Theron Kai and Lyra Sol, along with the other members of the delegation, gathered in the ambassador's private lounge, a holographic projection of Xylos Prime's serene landscape, providing a stark contrast to the brutal realities they had just witnessed. I confess, Theron Kai began, his voice heavy with concern. I am uncertain how to proceed. We came here seeking a trade agreement, but I now question whether such an alliance is truly in our best interests. Lyra's soul nodded in agreement. Anya Petrova's physiology and her actions are deeply unsettling. Their evolutionary path has led them down a dangerous road. Are we truly prepared to align ourselves with a species that possesses such a capacity for violence? The other members of the delegation voiced similar concerns. They questioned whether humanity's inherent brutality made them inherently dangerous, a threat to the delicate balance of galactic peace. They wondered whether their technological advancements could be trusted in the hands of a species so readily inclined towards violence. However, a dissenting voice emerged from the group. Xylar historian and cultural analyst, Elder Valana, spoke with a calm, measured tone. We must not allow our fear to cloud our judgment, she cautioned. We have witnessed humanity's capacity for violence, but we have also witnessed their resilience, their adaptability, and their unwavering determination. She paused, then added with a thoughtful expression. Perhaps their brutality is not a character flaw, but a survival mechanism. Perhaps their willingness to do whatever it takes to survive makes them uniquely valuable in a galaxy that is constantly threatened by chaos and destruction. Valana's words sparked a heated debate. Some argued that humanity's potential for good outweighed their potential for evil, that their strength and resilience could be invaluable assets in the face of galactic threats. Others maintained that their inherent violence made them too risky to trust, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. The Xylar delegation grappled with the ethical dilemma, their minds torn between fear and fascination, between repulsion and respect. They recognized that humanity was not a simple equation, that their Deathworlder label was a gross oversimplification of a complex and multifaceted species. They realized that the decision before them was not simply about a trade agreement, but about the very future of their relationship with humanity, about whether they would embrace them as allies or reject them as pariahs. The choice was difficult, fraught with uncertainty, but it was a choice that they could not avoid. The next day, the trade negotiations resumed, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. The Xylar delegation, having grappled with their ethical dilemma, approached the discussions with a newfound respect and a revised set of priorities. Theron Kai addressed Ambassador Davies, his voice carrying a weight of sincerity. Ambassador, he began, Our initial objective was to secure access to Earth's resources to exploit your planet's unique geological and biological assets for our own benefit. He paused, then added with a thoughtful expression. However, after witnessing the resilience and adaptability of your species, we have come to realize that Earth's resources are not your only asset. Your survival skills, your unwavering determination, your ability to thrive in the face of adversity are equally valuable, perhaps even more so. He proposed a revised trade agreement, one that focused not solely on resource extraction, but on a collaborative partnership. He suggested joint research initiatives to study Earth's unique ecosystems, to learn from humanity's survival strategies, and to develop new technologies that could benefit both species. We seek a partnership, Theron Kai emphasized, not exploitation. That we believe that by working together, we can overcome the challenges that lie ahead and build a brighter future for both our civilizations. The Terran delegation, initially surprised by the Xyler's change of heart, cautiously welcomed the new proposal. They recognized the potential benefits of a collaborative alliance, a chance to share their knowledge and expertise with a technologically advanced species. The negotiations proceeded smoothly, both sides demonstrating a willingness to compromise and find common ground. The revised trade agreement included provisions for joint research projects, cultural exchange programs, and mutual defense protocols. The Xyler delegation recognized that humanity's strength and resilience could be invaluable assets in a galaxy that was constantly threatened by war, disease, and natural disasters. They sought to learn from humanity's survival strategies to adapt their own civilization to the challenges of a changing universe. The trade agreement was ultimately signed, marking the beginning of a new era of cooperation between the Terran Confederacy and the Xyler Ascendancy. The Xyler delegation departed the Stardust Promenade with a newfound respect for humanity, forever changed by the brutal truth they had learned. They understood that being a Deathworlder was not just about strength and violence, but about resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to survival. And they knew that those qualities were essential for any species that hoped to thrive in the vast and unforgiving galaxy. As the Xyler delegation prepared to depart the Stardust Promenade, Theron Kai sought out Anya one last time. He found her in the observation lounge, once again gazing out at the swirling nebula. "Cadet Petrova," he said, his voice filled with a newfound respect. "I wish to thank you, not only for your service, but for the lessons you have taught us." Anya turned to face him, her expression calm and attentive. "The pleasure was all mine, Ambassador. When we first arrived on the station," Theron Kai continued, "we were blinded by our preconceived notions about humanity. We saw you as Deathworlders, as inherently violent and dangerous. We failed to recognize the complexities of your species, the strength of your spirit, the depth of your compassion." He paused, then added with a thoughtful expression, "We now understand that your brutality is not a character flaw, but a survival mechanism. It is a tool, honed by millennia of natural selection, to protect yourselves and those you care about in a world that demands strength and ruthlessness to survive." "Earth is a harsh teacher," Anya replied, her voice soft but firm. "It has shaped us into what we are, for better or for worse." "Indeed," Theron Kai agreed, "but it has also instilled in you a resilience and adaptability that is unmatched in the galaxy. You have shown us that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, it is possible to not only survive, but to thrive." He extended his hand towards Anya, offering a gesture of friendship and respect. "We leave this station with a new perspective on humanity," he said. "We understand that you are not simply Deathworlders, but survivors, innovators, and potential allies." Anya accepted his hand, her grip firm and unwavering. "We look forward to working with you, Ambassador," she said. "Together, we can build a brighter future for both our species." As the Xyler delegation's shuttle departed the Stardust Promenade, Theron Kai reflected on the events of the past few days. He realized that the brutal truth he had learned was not just about humanity's capacity for violence, but about their unwavering commitment to survival, their ability to adapt and overcome. In their potential for both destruction and creation, that he understood that being a Deathworlder was not a curse, but a challenge, a test of strength and resilience that had forged humanity into a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. And he knew that as long as humanity remained true to their values, they would continue to thrive, to adapt, and to overcome, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Alone once more in the observation lounge, Anya Petrova allowed herself a moment of introspection. The swirling nebula, a canvas of cosmic wonder, mirrored the complexities of her own heart and mind. The events of the past few days had forced her to confront not only the perceptions of others, but also her own understanding of herself. She knew that she was different, that she carried within her the marks of Earth's brutal crucible. She had witnessed death, endured hardship, and made choices that would haunt her for the rest of her days. She had learned to kill, to survive, to do whatever it takes to protect those she cared about. She acknowledged the darkness that resided within her, the cold, calculating intensity that had both horrified and awestruck the Xylar delegation. She knew that she was capable of violence, that she possessed the potential to inflict great harm. But she also recognized the value of her skills, the importance of her role as a protector. She had saved Theron Kai from certain death, she had neutralized a rogue drone, and she had defended her species against those who sought to exploit them. She knew that she was not a monster, that her actions were driven by a deep-seated sense of duty and an unwavering commitment to justice. She was a product of her environment, a survivor who had adapted to the harsh realities of a dangerous world. She understood that she represented both the best and worst of humanity's adaptation, the potential for both destruction and creation that resided within every Deathworlder. She was a walking paradox, a testament to the complexities of evolution, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for the future. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, and allowed the swirling nebula to wash over her, cleansing her soul and renewing her spirit. She knew that the challenges ahead would be great, that the path ahead would be great, that the path she had chosen was fraught with peril. But she was ready. She was a Deathworld Cadet, a survivor, a protector, and she would face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to duty. The story of Anya Petrova and the Xylar delegation serves as a microcosm of the larger relationship between humanity and the galaxy. It is a story of misunderstanding, fear, and prejudice, but also a story of understanding, respect, and cooperation. The aliens departed with a renewed understanding of humanity, forever changed by the brutal truth they had learned. They recognized that Deathworlders were not inherently violent, but shaped by a world that demanded strength and ruthlessness to survive. They understood that their brutality was a survival mechanism, not a character flaw. They also carried with them a healthy dose of fear, a lingering awareness of the potential for destruction that resided within every human heart. They knew that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, a species capable of both great good and great evil. But ultimately, they chose to embrace humanity, to recognize their potential for innovation, resilience, and unwavering determination. They sought to learn from their survival strategies, to adapt their own civilization to the challenges of a changing galaxy. And so, the story ends not with conflict or destruction, but with hope, that a hope for a future where different species can learn to understand and respect one another, where they can overcome their prejudices and work together to build a brighter tomorrow. The Xylar Ascendancy and the Terran Confederacy forged a lasting alliance, a testament to the power of understanding and cooperation. They shared their knowledge, their resources, and their expertise, working together to solve problems that would have been insurmountable alone. And Anya Petrova, the seemingly ordinary Deathworld Cadet, became a symbol of hope for the galaxy. She represented the best and worst of humanity's adaptation, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always light to be found. Her story serves as a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that true strength lies not in physical power, but in the resilience of the spirit, and that even the smallest individual can make a profound difference in the world. if they are willing to embrace their true potential. The legacy of the Stardust Promenade negotiations lived on, spreading throughout the galaxy, inspiring other species to overcome their prejudices and embrace the potential for understanding and cooperation. The brutal truth of the Deathworld Cadet became a beacon of hope, illuminating the path towards a brighter future for all. The end.